I'm in Elijah's nursery right now, and I thought I would do the long-awaited postpartum update. I am 4 months postpartum on the 10th of this month. I had my son on November 10th, 2022. So I thought now that I have a good 2 to 3 months under my belt, I can be able to accurately tell you how I'm doing and what the postpartum journey's been like and motherhood and all that, instead of doing it, you know, a couple weeks, even a month afterwards, because there was obviously a lot of hormone fluctuations and things like that that happened after birth that I wouldn't be able to tell you guys if I did any sooner. So technically I did this on purpose, but actually it kind of just ended up this way. I am going to start with some of my birth story questions. One of them was, did I have a birth plan? I did have a birth plan. I wanted to do a water birth. I wanted to be unmedicated, and I also wanted to do it at a specific hospital here in Colorado. Unfortunately, because of my insurance when I was pregnant with the Army, I wasn't on the select plan, which is like as it sounds, you can select hospitals you want to go to. So originally I was going to have Elijah at the hospital here in Carson. However, because I ended up being 34 weeks along when I had him, the hospital was not prepared to do any births that were less than 36 weeks. So I had to get transported to St. Francis here in Colorado, which was the perfect hospital. I couldn't have asked for a better birthing team. It was amazing. So I went there, and that is where I ended up having Elijah, but I still did it unmedicated. I couldn't do water birth because I was high risk and obviously already having my son very early. So I just did it plain Jane on the bed, and so it was okay. What was wrong with Elijah when I had him? So because he was 34 weeks, his lungs were not developed at all. So when I went into labor, I was originally going to go get 3D ultrasounds done to have as a keepsake, which I still did get. But Elijah was so hard to photograph, and we could not figure out why until the ultrasound tech was like, oh my God, your baby is super low. I think you should just really chill out after this and just, you know, stay still. You got 4 more weeks left, 3 more on a good day, like just stay still. So I went home, and literally the next night I started having contractions. So I put it off for 3 days. I put it off as long as I could. My water broke at noon, and I was like, oh my God, his lungs aren't ready. Like, we need to go to the hospital, because I didn't want to get an infection on top of that. My water, you know, on top of all the odds he was already having to fight against, I didn't want to get an infection too, because I'm not going to the doctor when my water broke. So we went to the hospital, got it confirmed, and they transported me, and they were giving me a lot of like steroids to try to help basically make his lungs expand prematurely, like help them, you know, get to where they would probably be if he would have waited at least, I don't know, what did they say, like 5 days to a week more, he would have been fine. But yeah, he just, we weren't there. So they gave me a bunch of steroids. They kind of worked, kind of not really. When I had him, he was only getting 30% oxygen, which after our whole stay in the NICU and our whole like thing with just his lungs and oxygen, I realized how little that is. Like, so scary. I was kind of out of it when I had him. The only thing I was registering was I wasn't hearing a baby cry, so that was kind of nerve-wracking. But they immediately took him off. Riley went too. That was another part of my birth plan that succeeded, actually, was Riley going anywhere that the baby went. I didn't want to be anxious about him being alone or anything weird happening. You know, you just can't trust anybody with your baby. You just can't. So that was another part of my birth plan. Riley went everywhere that he was going to go if I couldn't be there. So that ended up working. They were super awesome. Another question tying into that was, what was our NICU stay like? So Elijah was there for 28 days, and majority of that was just making sure he could breathe. His lungs were okay. We weren't going to have any issues once he came home. He took to feeding really quick. Sometimes that can be the longest thing, but for us it was Elijah's breathing and it stabilizing and him being able to keep it up. So we were just kind of going every single night from like 4 until midnight and staying with him, because he did feeds every 3 hours. So we were trying to be there for a few and then putting him down to bed. Obviously we knew he was getting up later in the night again, but it was just comforting for us. And it was just a lot of watching his oxygen go up and be great and stay there for a couple hours and then go back down, and then him struggle and then it'd be great and it'd stay there and it'd go back down. And for his stay, he had to at least stabilize breathing for 24 hours on the lowest setting of oxygen assistance they had available, which was like, I think it was like 2% more than just breathing the regular air around us. Plus, we live in Colorado, so the altitude was a lot harder for any newborn. They have to go home on oxygen regardless, just to have that little extra help to get acclimated. But on top of, you know, already having those breathing issues and then being at altitude, it was a mess. Like, anytime there was a weather issue, like a snowstorm or anything like that, it would be harder for Elijah to breathe. So I had to bring his oxygen up to help him with that. And then that would set us back from doing that testing of 24 hours on the lowest setting even longer. But he finally got it. Within like the span of like a week, it was all of a sudden like, boom, he had it. He was able to breathe. They did the lowest setting. He killed it. We did the car seat test. That was amazing. Like, they told me, you know, the whole time we were there, they told me that a lot of the time it's just going to be out of nowhere. Baby's just going to get it and we'll be great and we're moving on and they'll be home. But it's just the timing of waiting for that light bulb to click on and for their development and their body to mix. And obviously Elijah's mental development was 6 weeks behind his physical also, so that was playing against us. So yeah, so how I am mentally as far as when I first had him to now, like I said, I didn't really feel like I was a mom. I felt like I had someone else's baby, honestly. I really dissociated as immediately after labor. Like, as soon as he came out of me, looking back now, I can see where I had a moment of PPD. So I was just like, I immediately dissociated and I was like, what just happened? I felt really good. I had a lot of adrenaline because I did do everything unmedicated. It was just pure adrenaline keeping me going. And once I took him to like the NICU and I had to leave him every night, it was kind of like, I don't know, I was going to go visit someone else's baby or like seeing a family member or something that really had nothing to do directly with me, if that makes sense. I don't know, it was very weird having to leave him with someone different every single night. He has so many amazing nurses, made this NICU stay so much better. Our favorite nurse, Miss Donna, we loved her so much. She was super awesome. I felt really comfortable leaving him with her every time she was on shift. And I don't know, it was just weird though, because as much confidence I had in him being okay, I was also like, what is going on? And like, I'd come home and some nights I'd be so distraught. Like, I'd be like, oh my God, I really just like left my baby somewhere. And then the hospital that he was at was an hour with traffic away from us. So it was a time. And so looking back, I can see where I struggled a lot with just like emotion regulating and things like that. Because one night I'd be like sobbing and the other night I'd be so happy and so motivated and everything's going great. And then, you know, he'd have the slightest dip in his oxygen for 5 minutes and it would just be game over for me. And I'd be absolutely destroyed for the rest of the night, in the worst mood, so discouraged. Like, I don't know, in the moment I didn't think it was that irregular, but looking back, I definitely struggled. I think I've noticed now in my mental 4 months, almost 4 months later, is that I get super anxious if I don't have Elijah. Like, I can let someone hold him, right? But if it's like, you know, over an hour of me not having physical like contact with him, it's very difficult for me, and I start getting like tense and start feeling like short and on edge and things like that, and I just need to have him and like know he's good and all that stuff. So I definitely have noticed that's happening. I got onto my higher prescription of Zoloft when I was 28 weeks along, I believe. I upped from 50 to 100 because I wanted to make sure that I was putting my best foot forward during this time, because I naturally really struggle with depression. I've been diagnosed with that since I was 17 and I'm 21 now. So I know myself enough to know like when things are kind of heading in that direction. So I went ahead and upped my medication, which I needed to do anyways because it just wasn't doing it for me. And so I think honestly preparing myself in that manner too has really helped with this side of the postpartum journey. I try to like learn a lot of patience and a lot of gratitude for even the bad days, because there were so many days that I couldn't even hold him because of what was going on with him. So yeah, that's definitely my biggest goal in the moment, and for the rest of his life I want to always just be, I don't know, I don't ever want it to feel like there's a divide where he can't come to me out of fear of you know, triggering me and like setting me off, you know, because growing up that's how I felt a lot with like my dad is like, I don't think until probably about like his 40s, and until like my younger siblings. Now I have a 3-year-old sister and a 5-month-old brother, and I think until now it hasn't always been the easiest to regulate that patience and that understanding and that like I don't know, just like experience being a dad. So when me being the first kid, I felt like everything I did was really triggering in a lot of aspects of like even from his childhood too. And so I never want to continue that cycle and make Elijah feel like, you know, mom is gonna like not respond to this well, or this is gonna agitate her, and that's gonna be like a big thing, and then it's gonna be a while and he's gonna have to like calm down, then he'll apologize and it'll be okay. Like, I don't have to do all that. So I'm working on now, while he's, you know, really little, I'm getting into that good habit of just melting out, emotionally regulating myself and not relying on things around me to do that for me, because I also don't want to be that mom where like Elijah is what keeps me grounded, and then if something's wrong with him or he's not doing what I want, then that's like a big explosion also, because that's not fair or right or healthy in any way. So it's a lot of learning right now, but I feel like motherhood so far has been going really, really good. I don't know, I have been doing like my breastfeeding journey. That's been kind of wonky. I'm really low on supply right now because I went on a trip and I wasn't pumping like I was supposed to, and breast milk is just like supply and demand. So I haven't even pumped all day today so far, speaking of that, and it's 4:20. So I'm gonna do that after this video. But I was pumping when I first had him every 3 hours, but after my milk supply regulated, I noticed that I could kind of come off of that a little bit, and it slowly turned into this situation I'm in now, where I'm always having to bring it back up and then I lose it, and then I bring it back up and then I lose it, because it's not like I'm not making like tons and tons where it's like constantly uncomfortable either. I had a question about my postpartum weight journey and what that's looking like. So I honestly didn't really have that much of a weight gain when I was pregnant. I would say it was probably about all in all I would say it's probably all in all like 10 pounds I gained throughout the whole thing. I worked out like my whole entire first trimester and then half of my second. That's when I started feeling a little wonky, like there's something going on with this baby during my late into my second trimester. So I laid off of the weight training and cardio and things like that after that. And that's honestly when I, you know, got my like bump and full, and he was starting to get in those big growth spurt stages that I started gaining weight. After that, I was super sick my whole entire pregnancy too. I was one of those people who was morning sick my whole entire pregnancy. So I kind of had that playing against me too when it came to like weight fluctuation and weight management. But now at the end of that, I am less than I was when I first got pregnant as it is right now. However, I've always struggled with like body image, food, things like that. So I'm not putting that type of thing at the forefront of my mind, because all too quickly it can get really, really off track for me, and the exercise will become a obsession instead of a habitual like enjoying session. And then, you know, the eating will become no snacks, then no breakfast, then no lunch, and then just a big dinner throughout my day. This is what I did in high school, and not really looking forward to going back to that, because I ended up having a really hard time with my menstruation cycle and all that good stuff from that. So I'm not going down that avenue. So it's not coming to the forefront of my mind right now, but I am just, you know, eating intuitively. I'm working out as it comes, as I have time. Like I said, schedule with Elijah, still find my footing. So whenever I can fit it in, I do it. We go on walks on the weekends when we can. We do things on the weekends together when I have Riley when we can, so we can have like, you know, extra sets of hands to also do that stuff, because I like to do that stuff too. And you know, everything's fluctuating as it should, and you know, we'll just see where we're at a year. I would preferably like to be if I had to put a label on it, I would prefer to be at least 15 to 20 pounds down from where I am right now at the end of this year. But again, not putting like a strict timeline on myself because, as I said, still healing, still all can get off track way too easily. But that is like my ideal goal for the next like year or two. I would say once I moved from Colorado, my weight fluctuated in an upwards trend. I'd say about that much, about 15 to 20 pounds. So I just would like to lose that normal weight. I wouldn't say that that is postpartum weight, so to speak, but that is kind of what I'm putting that postpartum weight journey label on. How has your marriage changed? I would say it hasn't changed. I would say it's gotten better, which I guess that sounded kind of like cliche, I think the right word is, but like, really, now we have another thing to bond over, another thing to grow with each other in, another thing to watch the other person flourish in. That's been a big thing for me too, seeing Riley take up his dad, you know, position and really just take off with it. I did not grow up with my biological father, so seeing my son have his biological dad, seeing him so blatantly step up to the plate, do what needs to be done, take care of him, speak with him, do all the developmental, like, not even necessary requirements, but even just like talking with him so he hears more vocabulary, and doing time with him and laying on the floor with him and showing him books and all these things. It really has like healed my inner child more than I ever could have imagined or like ever would have thought that would have been. I always thought honestly that being pregnant and having a baby would do the opposite because of that, like, I don't know, I wouldn't even say anger, but that hurt I carried through a lot of my adolescent and teenage years before I really had a full understanding of like that had nothing to do with me, you know, that's a him problem. But I think now that it's actually happened, I see that it's been such a positive thing for even me, and that has helped our marriage where, you know, those types of barriers too that I have with like a man have come down with that also. So I would say all in all, our marriage has gotten a lot better. And if anything, it pushes us to have to communicate our, you know, love more because of all the time I spent, at least with like Elijah, and all the time Riley spends with work. Just having another thing that could get in the way has helped us be more intentional. My last question, of course, I'm sure no one's surprised by this, but will there be a baby number 2? I do not know. I go back and forth all the time whether I want to get pregnant again or whether I want to be one and done. I see the pros to both, honestly. I never thought I would see the pros of being one and done until I had my son, and I was like, wow, okay, no. There's actually real benefits here. It won't be anytime soon, that's for dang sure. We have talked about that. I do not want a baby any sooner than like Elijah being like 3 years old. There's a lot of like, I wouldn't say pressure, but expectation to keep growing your family, I feel like, after you have one kid. And we've just really been intentional about making sure the other person doesn't succumb to that like pressure or feeling like there's pressure to do that. There's nothing selfish bad about it. I think I've always heard that narrative about being one and done. It's like selfish and just for like the parents, blah blah, because like the kid is gonna not have a sibling. But like, how would they know? How would they literally know what they missed out on? And honestly, I know so many people who have other siblings that literally would not have cared if it was just them or if they weren't even there at all. So just have to wait and see. If there's any like baby or like birth or anything like that that I would have gone through already, just let me know in the comments what you want to see, any questions you have, and I'll definitely do another Q&A like this. Like I said, follow me on Instagram. I always ask for questions there too. You can leave them there when I ask for those. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this one. Stick around for more mom, lifestyle, all that good stuff content, and I will see you guys in the next video.